Welcome and good evening. My name is Felissa Reese, and I would like to welcome you all here to Hartman Park's second annual Black History Month. The theme for this month is Emergence of Black Culture in Sports. At this time, I would like to introduce our MC, but before I do that, I would just like to give you a little bit of history about him. He has been with Hartman Regional Center ever since he has been 6 years old. He grew up in this center. He's been a loving part of this center. He's been excellent in all of our themes that we've had in our showcases. This young man has learned how to play trumpet. He is a YouTuber. He is a freshman at McGavock High School. And when he graduates, he wants to be a mechanical engineer. I am so proud of him because he has turned out to be an exceptional young man. This is going to be one of our leaders going into 2021. So what I want you to do is put your hands together and welcome Mr. Robert Peebles.
Thank you, Ms. Phyllis, for the introduction. As we mark over 30 years of Black History Month, we take a trip down memory lane, celebrating the great athletic that paved the way for Black representation in sports. With today, we can begin to imagine golf without the legendary Tiger Woods, or track and field without the prolific and exceptional Wilma Rudolph. It's easy to forget a time where Black athletic talent was never so present and popular in our screens. Fortunately, credit to the vast achievements of our past Black athletic, the sporting world is now a more diverse place, more accepting and equality than it has ever been. Sporting talent is now inclusive thanks to the trailblazers who triumphed over oppression. Today, we shine the spotlight on some of our favorite and most historical sporting heroes from then to now, as we recognize the exceptional athletes that changed the sports for the better. At this time, we will start our student presentation with Breonna Peoples as Wilma Rudolph.
Wilma Rudolph was an American sprinter born in St. Bethlehem, Tennessee, who became a world record-holding Olympic champion and international sports icon in track and field, following her success in the 1956 and 1960 Olympic Games. Rudolph competed in the 200-meter dash and won a bronze medal in the 4x100-meter relay at the 1956 Summer Olympics at Melbourne, Australia. She also won 3 gold medals in the 100 and 200-meter individual events and in the 4x100-meter relay at the 1960 Summer Olympics at Rome, Italy. Rudolph was acclaimed the fastest woman in the world in the 1960s and became the first American woman to win 3 gold medals in a single Olympic Games.
Thank you, Breonna, for the presentation. Next up, we will have Bryce Jones as Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, born as Cassius Clay Jr., was an American professional boxing activist, entertainer, and a scientist. Nicknamed the greatest, he is widely regarded as one of the most significant and celebrated figures of the 20th century. As one of the greatest boxers of all time, he began training as an amateur at 12 years old. At 18, he won the gold medal in a lightweight heavyweight division at the 1960 Olympics. He turned professional later that year. He became a Muslim after the 1961 the World Heavyweight Championship from Sonny Liston in a major upset on February 25th, 1964. At the age of 22, on March 6, 1964, he announced that he will no longer be known as Classic Clay, but as Muhammad Ali.
Thank you, Bryce, for the presentation. Next up, we will have Mackenzie Gassaway as Debbie Thomas.
Debbie Thomas is an American farmer, figure skater, and doctor. Thomas started skating at age 5 and San Jose. She competed in her first figure skating competitive at age 9, finishing in her first place. From then on, she was hooked on competitive skating, was most of her success to her mother, who sacrificed to drive her over 100 miles a day between home, school, and the ice rink. She is the 1986 World Competition, the 1988 Olympics bronze medalist, and a 2-time champion.
Thank you, Mackenzie, for the presentation. That's Ms. Tony. Next up, we have Caleb Cockrell as Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson was an American professional baseball player who became the first African American to play Major League Baseball. In the modern era, Robinson broke the baseball column when he started at first base for the Brooklyn Dodgers on April 15, 1947. When the Dodgers signed Robinson, they heralded the end of racial segregation in professional baseball that had relegated black players to the Negro Leagues. Since the 1880s, Robinson was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962.
Thank you, Caleb, for the presentation. Next up, we will have our guest speaker, but before all that, we'll have a little bio for him. Now I would like to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Charles A. Moorman. Charles Moorman, affectionately known as Mr. Tony, was born in Nashville, Tennessee, to the late Louis Moorman and Ruth Martin. Mr. Tony was educated in a private school at St. Vincent and a public school at Washington Junior High and Pearl High. After graduating high school, Mr. Tony attended TSU on a 4-year scholarship for basketball from 1967 to 1971. After college, he was employed by Metro Parks from 1972 until he retired in 2008. Mr. Tony is the father to one son, Todd Woodard, and 4 grandkids, Cassidy, Todd Jr., Trent, and Trey. Please welcome our very own Tony Moorman.
Thank you for that introduction, Rob. I am very pleased and honored to be part of the Black History celebration. I want to give you a little history of what this celebration is about. We didn't have Black History Month or Week when I was coming up. We played ball, we played football, basketball, baseball. Hadley Park was our background, was our backyard. Hadley Park was the only center in the North Nashville area that we could play indoor basketball. In 1964, they built Watkins Park Center across from Martin Luther King School now. That was in 1964. Those were the only 2 centers that we could participate in. We had a lot of obstacles to overcome during that time. I began playing basketball at the center, and as I got older, going on to Washington, some of the guys on that team wanted me to come out for the team because they were losing 2 guys, and they knew that I was a community center player. They knew about my skills, and so they persuaded me to come out, and I did, and I made a team. During that time, before that time, I was in a band. I was in a marching band. Yeah, I was in a marching band. I played saxophone. So I put my saxophone down and went to the round ball. There, we started setting records of all kinds in junior high school. Roberts in junior high school or high school? 9th grade. My 9th grade year at Washington, we were undefeated, and we had a scoring average of 120 points per game. This was junior high school. Our top scorer was Theodore McLean, averaged 39 points per game. Next was James Douglas, averaged 37 points per game. And then there was Willie Fisher, who was no longer with us, averaged 33 points a game. These are 6-minute quarters. A lot of records were surpassed during that time. After Washington, then came Pearl High. Pearl High was known for its basketball prowess. Even before our record-breaking team, there were teams that came before us that had a lot of excellent players that went on to play major basketball and some pro ball. But as the years went on, 1965, 66, we became involved with the TSSAA all schools, including non-black schools. We had 4 black schools in Nashville: Meigs, Haynes, Pearl High, and Cameron. They decided to combine that so we could play the Hillsboroughs, the Overtons, and all the non-black schools. During that year, those schools were not comfortable playing against black teams. In fact, we had officials, referees, who were giving us hard times because our athletic ability was so overwhelming over our opponents that they were trying to make an even field. It didn't work. It didn't work. So our coaches told us, play your game, you do what you do, don't be offended by it. If somebody calls you something out of your name. We didn't know what that meant, because if anything, we may have called them something. But it never came down to that. It was just mano a mano, and we always overwhelmed our competitors. We had a lot of big games that we had a lot of fans in the stands, and we had at the Municipal Auditorium. We played Cameron, we played Father Ryan, and we had so many fans in the stands that the cheering and the yearing was so loud that you couldn't hear yourself. You could hear ringing. And to this day, I think about all of that, and you didn't crack behind all the cheering against you, all the referees against you, even the mayor against you, which consequently made us stronger individuals as we progressed in life. We knew how to deal with situations without cracking. We knew how to not crack. We knew how to not make mistakes anymore. We knew how to make mistakes and knew how to correct them. As young black people, the same thing applies to you all. Work ethic, working hard, it always pays off in the end. We have a number of black and white people that gave their lives during the Civil Rights era so that we could have the things that we have right now. Maybe if we hadn't played that first game, maybe Robert wouldn't be going to McGavitt. Maybe some of you would not be going to some of the big schools because they would still be segregated, more than likely. But it did not happen that way. So I want you all to just continue to be proud. When Black History Month comes around, participate. There's a lot of people who want you to do this. Participate, keep working hard, and make this world a better place for all of us. Thank you very much. Now, are there any questions anyone would like to ask me? Wow. Okay, she came up first. I was really impressed how you read your. I was impressed.
How did you feel when you won the state champion against an all-white team?
Good question. Thinking back, all the things that happened to us while we were playing with the officials, the other coaches, we knew getting that trophy was getting back at them. That's all we had. We didn't have to do anything. We just received that trophy, and they knew that we were the best around. And that we felt good about it, but we didn't know how good we felt until later, because that was just another thing that we always won. We always won. So later on, that's when we really realized how big it was. Thanks for the question. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, what made you want to play basketball?
I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to play baseball. Basketball came about when I was very young, and I was left home alone a lot because my mother works after school, and I would just ball up paper and shoot it in the lampshades. And after seeing people seeing teams on TV, well, I said, well, when I started playing in this community center, people thought I was pretty good. So I just ran with that, and I said, well, I can play with these people. And so I just put my horn down and continued to play. Thanks for the question. Okay, is that? Yes, ma'am.
How did you feel when you first played against the all-white school?
A little nervous. A little nervous. And they were too. They were too. They had never seen us on the court or on the field, and we had never seen them. So we were both a little nervous, but after a while, our athletic abilities took over, and we were fine. We were fine. Yes, sir.
How much do you play in mud?
How much?
How much do you love it?
To play in mud. You want to know how much you like playing in mud?
In mud?
In mud.
Okay, in
How much
mud.
to play basketball? He said in basketball.
Play mud in basketball? Or just playing basketball?
Playing basketball?
Okay.
I love playing basketball. After I finished playing basketball at Pearl, I went on to play at TSU, and we got to the we had success there also. We got to the national championship team and national championship games, and we lost, but we still got to the championship game. Thank you for the question. I didn't understand the mud part, but thanks for the question. Yes, ma'am.
Being that I'm a shoe person, so what type of shoes did y'all wear during y'all games, being that Nike
Wow.
didn't come out till the 70s?
Wow. I'm pretty sure it was Chuck Taylor's. I'm pretty sure it was Chuck Taylor's. There was a place downtown called Chicago Bargains. I don't know if anybody. That's where all the used Chuck Taylors were sold. And you could get a pair of Chuck Taylors for $3. Wow. And of course, in the early '60s, that was a place where we had to go. Had to go. Wow, Chuck Taylor. Yes, sir.
Got a question. What would you consider the best high school team in Nashville during the '60s?
During the '60s?
Yeah. Who would you consider?
Pearl was the number one in the '60s. Okay. Now, if you go to the '70s, I would have to put Cameron in there. Now, during the '60s, Pearl had 4 or 5 great teams, other than the '66 team. There were 3 national championship teams from '60, '59, '60, '61. National championship teams, but to answer your question, it was Pearl.
There's always this debate between LeBron and Michael Jordan, but in Nashville, you hear this debate between Pearl and Cameron.
Like I said, you could add Cameron there during the '70s,
Okay.
but not during the '60s. Okay. Uh-oh, look like they teamed up on me here. What's going on here?
You mentioned growing up and playing in the community centers. How important was that for you?
Big time, big time. Especially during the winter. Because during the summer, where Pearl Cone is now, was our elementary school and our junior high school. The elementary school, I lived down the street. On nights when there was a full moon, I could go up to the playground and shoot basketball by myself because of the full moon. But in the wintertime, the community center was a lifesaver. We had a lot of guys and not enough uniforms. We had one set of uniforms and 3 teams wore. But we didn't care. We didn't care. Didn't care.
So it's safe to say that community centers were important to you growing up?
Sure, sure. I mean, it kept us out of the streets. And at the community center over on Joe Johnson, they had the weekly spy dance, which kept us inside also. If there were more community centers then as there are now, or there may be a lot of people that would not be in a lot of trouble. Yeah.
Thank you.
Question? Who?
Mr. Tony.
Yes.
Looking back on what you accomplished as being the first team to actually play against a white team, we know that you had the skill and that you were physically strong. What was your mental capacity, because you had to have some type of mental strength there too?
Well, we wasn't the only team that was playing against a white team. Maybe all the black schools played against a white team, and we got up for our black teams, the teams that were our black high schools. A lot of the non-black teams, quite a few of them, were not physically able to keep up with us. There were a couple that were, and we really had to be on point against them. But to answer your question, you had to be mentally strong because of the obstacles that some people could oppose for us. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I know you say you grew up in the community centers, and I know it does help a lot of our young men and young women. Of course, you are employed at Metro Parks. Do you feel is that what led you to want to work with Metro Parks, seeing what they brought to you and helped you out?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I remember distinctly telling one of our supervisors that I want to work over at Watkins Park because I want to try to extract as much talent out of the projects as I could. And I eventually got to Watkins Park, and I eventually did just that. And that kept going, and I wanted to continue that as I went to other sites. So yes, yeah. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank you again and have a productive Black History Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tony, for the nice Black History Month way to take us down memory lane of your childhood. Can we get another round of applause, Ms. Tony? I guess now we're going to have our closing remarks by Ms. LaShonda Carpenter.
Thank you, Robert. I'm LaShonda. I'm the NASA coordinator and rec leader here at Hartman Park Regional Center. I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. I really want to thank you, Mr. Tony, my night shift homie. Appreciate it. You really taught us a lot. Things that, and I grew up in Nashville, things I never knew. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of my kids that got up here. I know it's not easy to speak in front of people. I really appreciate y'all for stepping up to the plate.
I want to piggyback on that too. Those kids were amazing. They were.
So give yourselves a hand.
I'm not really part of that.
But it's okay, Robert. I was going to thank you also for MCing. Because I know you're too old for NASA, but you still came through for us, and we appreciate you. Mr. Tony, if you would please come back up here with me for a second. On behalf of Hartman Park and all the centers in Miss Barbara's district, we would like to present you with this little token for being our guest speaker this evening and celebrating Black History with us.